Here is what happened on the latest edition of Morning Glory.
Here's some great news for one struggling author who had no idea how big he was in Japan. And that is until he went there and he was met by a TV crew and put in a James Bond-style hotel. New York-based novelist David Gordon, he wrote a book called The Serialist in 2010, which premiered in the United States and did moderately well, but in Japan the book was a sensation. Suddenly a Japanese translation came out and Gordon started winning Japanese literary contests. Gordon, he wrote an essay for the New York Times in which he explains how he won all 3 major literary contests, something no one had done before, especially not an American. Gordon had always been a fan of Japanese culture, but had no idea he'd be received so well there. It was like having a distant teenage crush on someone who suddenly wrote and said, "I like you too," wrote Gordon. That's a nice way of putting it. Gordon explains how his book was renamed Niru Shusetuka, translates into second-rate novelist, since the book is about a pulp fiction author. Not Quentin Tarantino, I don't think. Not only did Gordon's book win big among readers, Japan decided to help Gordon reach an even wider audience with a movie adaptation. The film, called Niru Shutesuka Serialist, is set in Tokyo with Japanese actors speaking Japanese. Well, there's a surprise. Gordon quips in his essay that the fact his book actually takes place in Queens and features non-Japanese people. But I don't think he'll be worried if the checks come rolling in. He describes going to interviews, readings and book signings. He says people applauded his ability to sign his name really big on a poster. And he describes coming home from his trip and returning to his book-filled rooms smaller than his hotel suite in Tokyo. Isn't that great? So there you go. With songs, sometimes on records, you never know if it might not be received in your own country, but could be a hit in other countries as well. So it's very often happens that. But it's great when you find out, isn't it? And let's face it, who wouldn't want to be big in Japan?
Live on 96 FM Morning Glory.